whenever I do these Q&As after a premiere, people launch right into questions, and I'm feeling so much. So can you just share how it feels to be here now presenting the work in front of actual people? What is that like for you?
Had to ask me that, did you?
Feel it all. What is it like?
It's probably one of the greatest moments in my whole life. And you're right, it is the first time I've seen it outside of 10 of my friends. So it's a beautiful experience to share it with other people and to remind us why we love the cinema so much and why it's important that we continue to use our voices to tell stories that are different, that show a different perspective and shine a different light on an old subject, you know? And it's important for women to make movies and tell stories from our gaze because it really is very, very different.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Amen. We do love you.
Thank you.
You've been on sets. You've been directed by some of the greats. You have seen it all. You've been acting, what is it, 25?
30.
30 years. That's a lot of sets. That's a lot of directors.
Yeah.
And I was a publicist before I was a director, so I was on the sets with a lot of directors, and I saw things that I wanted to take with me, but I learned more from the things I didn't want to take with me. So I wanted to ask, before we get into your actual process, what was a lesson that you learned about what you didn't want to do from all of your years working on sets? Not anyone specifically, but what is something that you said, I won't do that, I'll direct my film in a different way?
Through my years, I've realized that the best directors are extremely collaborative. They hire department heads that they believe in, that they trust, that they are confident in, that have a shared vision. And once the process gets going, they let those people do their jobs. They don't micromanage, right? They are about uplifting everyone. They create a set and an environment that's inclusive of everybody. Yes, at the end of the day, the director has the final say, but the smartest directors I have witnessed are those that are always open to the ideas of the others, because you never know where that great idea is gonna come from, right? So when I went into my process, I was very mindful of hiring the people I trusted, and then some of them are here today. I let them do their jobs.
All right,
and
fantastic.
I appreciated them. Yeah.
Let's give a shout out. If you're crew, we love crew. If you're crew, stand up. Stand up if you are a bruised crew. Really hard to see, house. If you can bring up some house lights.
I know they're here.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for all the crew members. Appreciate you. So let's talk about Jackie Justice. Okay, so I read Jackie Justice was not supposed to look like you. Tell us how she was originally envisioned with the script and the journey to become her. It was an up and down process. You were supposed to not be the director. So how did we get here?
No, Jackie Justice didn't look like me. As I said earlier, she was a 21, 24, 25-year-old white Irish Catholic woman. And when I read the script, I so was taken by the story. But of course, if I were going to play this character, she couldn't be that. So I had to convince our producers that I could reimagine the story for someone that looked like me. So when they originally said, yes, we say yes, reimagine it for you, then I had the wonderful process of sitting down with our writer, Michelle Rosenfarb, who is here, and I think we should give her a big round of applause because to her credit, she sat down with me. This is before I was the filmmaker. I was just sort of at this point the actress, and she sat down with me and she allowed me to reimagine the story alongside her. And then I finally went to the producers and I said, okay, I've reimagined the story, and they said to me, well, go out and find a director. And I thought, okay, that's gonna be my job. Okay, so I went out and I tried to find a director, and I talked to many women because I was determined that it had to be a female filmmaker to tell this story. And I talked to many women, but the problem was the story, the way I saw it, wasn't really realized on the page yet. Michelle was still in the process of reimagining and tweaking and sort of, redefining who these characters were and what this world was. And what I found was that all the filmmakers that I spoke to, they didn't see the story that I saw in my head. They couldn't quite understand all the elements of it. They saw parts of it. They saw the drama part of the story, but they weren't fight fans, and they shied away from that. Some of them didn't want to go as hard-hitting and deal with some of these subjects the way I was wanting to do and needing to do. So I finally went home one night, and I was pretty distraught because I thought, well, God, I can't seem to get a filmmaker to make this story. And then my dear friend Elaine Goldsmith Thomas said to me, why don't you do it? And I said, me do it? I can't. I've never directed a movie before. This is too big of a role to play. I can't do that. And she said, you absolutely can. You love it. Like, I've never seen anybody love anything. You know this story. You know these characters. It's all in your head. You spit it out. You ignite every time somebody talks to you about it. Of course you can. All you have to do is believe that you can. You have to believe that you can. And it was that night I went home and I thought long and hard about it. And I said to myself, why can't I do that? Why can't I? Who says I can't? I realized it was only myself telling me that I couldn't. And I woke up that next morning and I called my manager and I said, hey, I want to go talk to Basil. Basil, I want it from Thunder Road. And I said, I'm going to go tell him the craziest thing he's probably ever heard in his whole life. But damn it, I'm fucking going to tell him. I am going to direct this movie. I'm going to ask him if I can direct this movie. And to Basil's credit, before I got it out of my mouth, he said yes. He said yes. And then I jumped all over him, ran into the hallway of the office and screamed at the top of my lungs, I'm going to direct a movie! And it was one of my greatest moments along this process.
What a moment. So directing a movie's hard.
It is. It's real hard, Ava.
It's rough. And so I
rough.
can't imagine, and I have so much respect, a tremendous amount of respect, awe, and really confusion and disbelief for folks that undertake that great task and responsibility and also are calling action on themselves. I know the hard part of directing, but to imagine then I have to go walk in and perform. And not only perform, but you are transforming your whole physicality, your whole body, into someone who is wildly different from your reality. The stunt choreography, the emotional pieces of it. That's why when I watched this, I thought, wow, this is really a monumental effort in terms of a director working on their first film and also inhabiting this particular role. Okay, so were you splitting your mind in two? Like, what happened once you set the scene, right? Everything's set. You've checked production design, wardrobe. You've looked through the camera. You know you're blocking. You've rehearsed yourself. And then what did you do right before you began to go from director to actor? What's the process?
I know. Well, two things were really important for me. One was, like you just said, I would be in the scene and I would make sure everything was right. I would talk to the other actors, make sure they were right, they were in the right headspace, hear everything they had to say. And then I would do the scene. And I had the gift of having a little angel on the set. Her name is Denise Woods. She's here. And she is a dialect coach. And she was there on the set to work with all of us, to help us with our dialects. And Jackie Justice keep me in the pocket and keep me low and change my whole cadence and the way I spoke. And she would come to me before the takes and she would say, okay, Halle, everybody is set. You're in the scene and you're doing great, but you're not acting. You're directing in the scene and you should be acting. So she would just slightly jerk my chain. And when she would do that, I would go, oh, right. And then I would do what you just said. I would then turn off my director hat and realize that I'm a thespian. These are my fellow actors and that I had to relieve myself of any responsibility for anything else in this scene but my performance as an actor and my truth in this scene, that thing that I have come to know so well for 30 years. But it was Denise Woods who would remind me, go do that thing you know how to do with your eyes closed. Start doing that now. And it was a huge, I don't think I could have done it if I didn't have her eyes and her nudging and her always reminding me of where I was in the day and within the scenes.
So let me ask you this. So you have Denise, and she's helping you drop in.
Yes.
But in the scene, I'm always fascinated by, as you can tell, I'm fascinated by actors to direct. I don't even know how that happens. Aren't you? So when I'm behind the camera, I'm watching performance. I'm assessing. I'm seeing, does this fit? Does this all go together? You're in the scene. How are you also reviewing and analyzing the actor's performance if you're doing your own thing?
Right. Well, sometimes when things worked right and we weren't too behind in the day because we didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't get too many takes at too many things. After a take, I would get to go look at the monitor, and then I could look at it. I'd look at it one time for the totality of the scene, the other actors, but I always had to take one look to just look at myself to be sure that I got what I needed to get out of the performance. And sometimes I would say, I need one more, and I'd have to go back. And then sometimes the truth of it is, Ava, this was a lower budget movie.
You just had to go.
I had one take. Like there's one scene in the movie with Budokan and Jackie in the locker room. It's one take. I mean, it's one shot. It's, a medium shot, and we had 2 takes, and that was it. And that's what had to be in the movie. So, sometimes going back and looking at it didn't matter because it was what it was. We got what we got, and we had to move on. But that's when you trust your instincts as an actor, and it's time to roll, and you roll.
All right, let's talk about the cast. Sheila is incredible.
Incredible.
She's incredible.
Incredible. Sheila 18, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us about her. Tell us about that baby. I mean, those eyes. He's just the little chocolate drop. You just want to pick him up and just hold him and then also the actor who played the mother. Forgive me for not knowing everyone's names, but I thought these 3 performances were really special.
Amazing. Sheila, First of all, Sheila was the first performer I cast, and I thought she would be the hardest because I had a vision of what this otherworldly person was in my mind. I mean, if you're going to be called Budokan, I mean, you better be seriously special to walk around and carry a name like that, along with immaculate. Like, it took 2 very special people to do that. But Sheila, when I first saw her audition tape, she was like magical to me. She was this otherworldly character. And then I heard her sing. She's also a beautiful singer. And I loved the subtlety in which she performed this character. And she was graceful and gracious and just like a beautiful creature, like a gazelle. That's how I saw her in my mind. And I just fell madly in love with her as a person, and then when she started acting and we started working together, I just fell madly in love with her talent, and the simplicity of her work was really beautiful, seamless.
Really elegant, beautiful work. Searching for children is a hard task.
Yes,
For some reason, I keep having to do it, and when you find one that's just magic, I mean, this boy, you had to find a boy who was able to express, really through his physicality, because the dialogue's not there.
Yeah.
So it was a rehearsal and search process for him.
I did a Zoom with Danny. He was in Atlanta, and we did a Zoom, and I took him through a few little exercises just to see. It was important for me to know, because he couldn't speak, I had to know if this little boy could listen. I mean, and really listen. Listen and then respond with his eyes or his body movements. And so I would say to him, make sure you listen to everything that's going on in the scene, have an opinion about everything you hear, and let that feeling and opinion wash over your body.
Come on, direction.
Of that.
Come on, direct.
Right?
Come on, direct the actor.
And
yes.
he did that beautifully because he's so smart, and he was so present, and he was so focused. And after we would do a great take or a great scene, then he would go running out and he would turn back into his little boy self and start doing backflips down the hall or jumping up and down on the bed. But when I said, okay, come on, Danny, let's go, he'd be like laser focused and ready to do the work. So he was such a revelation and such a special little boy.
Really, truly
And
is.
he's here. You're here, right, Danny?
Is he?
Yes.
Where is he?
He's here.
Oh, no, I can't see. Stand up! Oh, you were so good, babe. You were so good. So as you talk about the actor who played the mother, I also would like you to just talk a little bit about, because through that character, a lot of the issues that you really wanted to express and illustrate through the film, the things that, as you talked about, stories of women overcoming, conquering, and just showing the totality of women in different experiences. A lot of it comes out through the storyline with the mother. So talk to a little bit about that work and that actor.
Yeah, it was really important to me to talk about that sort of generational pain that we pass on, the origins of our, growing that, we sometimes bury and we suffer from, especially in the Black community. We don't talk about these things, sort of the abuse and the damage that happens to us. And we hold on to that, and by holding on to that, it dictates everything we do and are not able to do in our whole life. So it was important to show that for Jackie to really move forward, to really become that mother that she knew she was meant to be but didn't think she could be because she had no mothering herself, it was really important that she faced that demon and she started the process before she could ever go back in that cage and even hope to stay in that cage. She had to finally face her mother and say, I know you knew. And if you didn't know, then you should have fucking known. You shouldn't have been so damaged that you let this happen to me. You should have done something about it, right? She had to have that hard conversation. And what was also important for me in this film was not to tie that up in a bow, because you don't hold on to something like that for so long and you think just because you bring it up, it magically disappears. But what that does do is you start the process, you open the door, and you realize that these two characters are going to be on the road for that healing. And it'll be a long road, it won't be overnight, but they are on the road. And so therefore it's hopeful at the end of the movie because the door has been opened. The truth has been told. I liked
it though, the way you did it, because it was rooted and it was real and it wasn't kind of a saccharine, everything's fine at the end. It's kind of like, I don't know where we're going, but we're here together, and that was fantastic. Two more questions, because they're wrapping me. The physicality, the training. So listen, I can barely, when I'm location scouting, by the time I'm done with a full location scout for a film, my back hurts. I'm limping out of the van. It's tough to even look for locations. You're doing that and people are punching you, kicking. What's happening? How did you do it all? How did you keep it all together? The physicality of both the directing but also the performance. How much time were you spending training?
I was training with Valentina Shevchenko. She's also here in this building.
Everybody's
the flyweight
here.
Champion. Valentina is here, a beast. I would train and learn and train with her probably 4 or 5 hours every day, early in the morning. And then I would leave that job. And many times she and Eric Brown, our fight coordinator, would say, you should take today, you should rest after this. And I would say, no, I got to go do my director job all day, which was scouting and sitting down with EJ, my production designer, and my DP, watching movies, doing shot lists, all the things that we have to do. That became the second part of my day. And I have to tell you, I don't know how I did it. I was on some adrenaline. I was on a high. Maya Angelou once said, there's no greater agony than an untold story inside you. And that's where I was. I had to get this out of my body, and so I had to do it. I just had to keep going day after day. And I was energized by it. I was ignited by it, and I was refusing to be told no, or refusing. We almost got shut down. My fellow producers are here. We almost got shut down about probably 10 times, where we were losing money when you're doing something independently. One day you have money, one day you don't have money. You thought you were getting money, it didn't come, or not enough came. At one point I had to be asked to give all of my money to keep the movie from shutting down, So it was a tumultuous process, and it was hard some days, but I refused to let that happen. Too many people were counting on me, and I refused to let that happen. So it was a hard process.
Yeah, but look, it all turned out perfect.
Yeah, it did.
Here you are now. Last question for you. So you are an icon, an artist that is, will be long remembered. The work that you've done has been transformative. You've knocked down barriers and doors for so many This is a new territory, a new space that you've conquered. Is it a space that you want to continue in terms of directing? Was it this story that you wanted to tell and you feel like you told it and now you'll be moving on to other things? Or are you, permanently on the side of the camera?
It's hard to say,
Okay.
what will actually be in my future. But I will say this. I know that women of color have to keep telling our stories because we have a definitive point of view. And for so long, our stories have been told by men or even white women. And I think it's really important that we continue to tell our own stories through our own lens. I think they're valuable, I think they're important, and I think it gives the others a way to understand us more deeply, right? And we should be a part of art in that way. Our story should be a part of art that way. So whether I'll do it or not, I hope so. I hope after tonight and this movie has whatever life it has, I hope I'll be, afforded another opportunity to get behind the camera and tell another story that I'm passionate about. I really do.
Well, whether you're telling it in front of the camera or behind the camera, we look forward to seeing many more Halle Berry films. I hope it's behind the camera. I think you're fantastic.
Thank you.
Give it up. It's November 17th?
17th in
November
theaters.
17th on Netflix.